Perfect. All right.
Oh,
Hey everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm super excited to share with you Holly Cotton. You're one of the most inspiring and one of the honestly like the most down to earth people that I've met. Despite having so much fame and so much media coverage, and you have such a strong community. So I'm just really excited to share your story with the world. And it was such a pleasure to get to be on your podcast. So I'm just excited to share you with everyone in my community, and some of the people in my community might not know who you are as well. So just a brief introduction. So Holly is a registered nurse. You're an author, a wellness expert, and you talk very intimately about nutrition and mental health and fitness. And your podcast has grown tremendously, which is no surprise because like the depth and the vulnerability and just the way you're able to shine through with your personality, and you're very open, and I really appreciate that. And I'll definitely dive in. I'll ask you questions about your book as well. That's a very inspirational story about your battle with breast cancer. And I'm excited to see you continue to grow on all the social media platforms, and just be able to share your wisdom and your infectious energy with the world.
you. I love that introduction. I sound so fancy. Thank you. Glad to be here. Hi, everyone.
So, I think from the outside, right, when we look at people that have a lot of fame, a lot of influence, right, like you're clearly influencer on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, right? But I think something that you shared with me that really resonated is like you actually take the time to respond back to your DMs, and I'm sure you get a lot of messages, right? How do you make the time to do that while not burning out as well?
So, first, let me just correct you, Davison. So, I only reply to DMs that are business related. So,
Okay.
so the yes, yes, yes. So, I'm not replying to all the DMs about, oh my gosh, I love your legs or you're so beautiful. All of those, I
Mhm.
don't honestly, I don't even reply. I just go in there and do delete all. So, let me just say that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but I do have people that reach out to me. They'll say, "Oh my gosh, you're inspiring," or "Oh, I have someone that went through cancer," or "Oh, thank you so much for that workout video." So for those people that do, I think that engagement is very important. And I feel like when you're a one person team, kind of like even though you have support, even though you have people doing things, when you are your own brand, it's almost like
Mm,
you're responsible for every interaction that you have, right? So even if you
mm,
have a PR person, even if you have an agent, even if you have the president of whatever whatever, you still are responsible for that engagement. And I think a lot of times that is sort of where people start having that shift, because it's very important when you are your own brand to be relatable, and also for people to feel like they know you. So
mm,
I tell people all the time, like when they get too comfortable, I'm like, listen, you really don't know me, right? Just because I'm friendly and I'm personable, I show you a part of me on social media that I
mm,
want to show. You don't know my
mm,
life, like you don't know me. So,
mm.
you have to navigate it like that. But I think the engagement is very important. So that's why I try to talk to people and make sure I engage, stay relatable, that kind of stuff.
Oh, and I also wanted to provide context. What I think the listeners and the viewers, depending on what platform you're watching from and tuning in from, I think what you're going to get out of this conversation is just how to like double down on your uniqueness and what makes you special, and not to be afraid to just be yourself and shining. And because you are so authentic and you're able to just be so vulnerable and so real, like that, I think that's why you've been able to build such a strong, like you said, community and engagement. So I think what people would get out of this conversation is like a true sense of like a deeper connection within themselves. I think they'll get inspiration, they'll find motivation, and I think they'll be able to take action, right? Whether it's publishing a book and being vulnerable about it like you have, or it's putting themselves out there, right? Whether it's social media or podcasts, and that's what I believe they will get from this conversation.
Thank you. Yes, all of those great things.
So, would you be open to sharing about what are some of the like touching messages that you've received from, like you said, folks that have also struggled with, cancer or some variation of their struggles?
Well, I think because I do so many things that I get a lot of information from various things. So, right now, my big book thing that I have going on is about teen mental health, right? So, I have had so many people that reached out to me DM wise, like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have gave this to my son before he died of suicide. Or, oh wow, I'm so glad that you have that. Or, I'm actually doing this big thing this month where I'm gonna is it this month? Yeah, April. I forgot today's April 1st. April Fool. But I'm doing something with the Boys and Girls Club because also I've learned along my process of publishing and my progress of coming from just a nurse to being a mental health advocate that there are so many people who don't have access to mental health resources. I didn't realize how expensive therapy was. I didn't know that there was this, lapse in or this disparity in different, groups of being able to
Mm,
afford health care. And then to add to that, psychiatric care, behavioral care,
mm,
like it's a whole thing that goes with that. So I
mm,
have that. And then also I always get people who have that someone has breast cancer, someone has a different kind of cancer,
mm,
someone's mom had this, their dad died of cancer. So the cancer
yeah,
thing is so common. I mean, like the statistics for breast cancer by itself, because that's the one that I kind of specialize in because I'm nurse and I also go through it all the time,
mm,
is that 1 in 8 women are diagnosed with breast cancer globally. So it's like,
mm,
okay, so when you're sitting in a room, there's one, two, three people might have different kinds of cancers and you don't even
mm,
know about it. So just
yeah,
raising awareness to that, like, wow, oh my gosh, I'm looking at you doing this and being out here and working out and stuff. How did you come from that to that? Or, oh my gosh, you
mm,
inspire me to, that there's life after. And so that's kind of what my
mm,
platform is, always life after. Like, what is your life after?
mm,
What have you been through that almost broke you, but now you're on the other side? And then now you got to rock it on the other side. Like you got to be the
mm,
best other side version of yourself that you can be. So basically like that stuff. I've had people in other countries that have sent me messages, Romania, Greece, Africa, that, have reached out to me about, oh my gosh, I have your book. I got my first book, which is about cancer. Oh, I gave my mom your book, or I gave something. And this is like in
mm,
other countries. And I'm like, wow, thank you. The impact is major. So
mm,
yeah, those are just some of I have thousands of them, but that's just
mm.
the general umbrella of it. It can go in any direction.
Yeah, it must be very weird, I guess, to have so many people in so many different countries, but also very grounding as well in terms of like just your spiritual connection with so many people who really feel connected to your mission, and who your being inspires them to just also share with others, and for them to just be able to feel like they can be open with you, like, someone who they don't really know like that, right? But just be able to share. So that's really rewarding.
And I think that's also something that I think a lot of people don't like. They try to transition into an influencer status, or they think that having these followers and stuff, like it makes them into a celebrity, right? So a
Mm,
lot of people, you get a TikTok video, you got 2 million views on a TikTok video of you making
mm,
popcorn, I don't know, whatever. So now you think that you're like a celebrity, right? And that's
mm,
fine. That's why there's the saying 15 minutes of fame, so what you take from that and you do with that, that's the key to longevity, and that's the key of
mm,
your impact. So for me, when I wrote my first book, I always tried to figure out, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? What's going on? And so I have in my phone, in my notes, I have a little tab that says, when people look at me, and I make sure I read that because I want people to feel that way. And how many times do you see someone that you think is like a celebrity and you're
Mm,
like, "Oh gosh, should I say something?" But you feel like they're
mm,
unapproachable, or you
yeah.
feel like they're going to be rude to you or something, or you're bothering them. So I try very hard to make sure that I stay approachable. So I get women
Mm,
all the time. Like just this weekend, I had someone, she was like, "Oh my God, oh my God, like I follow you on Instagram. Can I take a picture with you?"
aw.
And yeah, "Oh my gosh, can I have your autograph?" And it is,
Mhm,
it's almost kind of weird because it's like I still see myself as regular Holly Cotton, but to other people,
mm,
they see it as as, oh my gosh, she's like a celebrity or she's doing this.
mm,
So I think it's very important for me because my platform is all about engaging,
mm,
bringing people in, making sure you feel comfortable with me. So I
mm.
think that you have to figure out what it is that you're selling as yourself as a product. And that's what you have to, you have to focus on all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I think if we come from ego, then eventually people will see that energy, right? But if in your case, it's very apparent that you're coming from service, you're coming from authenticity, from vulnerability, from like a strong mission, right? And you mentioned mental health earlier. I know people of color are often ones that not only because of the economic resource, like you said, it is expensive, right? But sometimes it is taboo with people of color. Would you be able to share a little bit more about that dynamic? But I also want to acknowledge, but there is a lot of progress, right? At least there are more people of color speaking openly about mental health. Whereas back then, it's like we have to be strong. We have to put up this front, and we have to make sure that no one can see our weakness. You know.
Yeah, and honestly, that's pretty like that sums up why there's the disparity, right? But it's not just we're not just talking about in African American communities. You're talking about also in Hispanic culture, we're talking about Asian culture. Everyone has their own way of doing things. Like, I know different cultures, like and as a practicing nurse, I know there's a respect thing. You don't touch, you
Mm,
don't do, there's like, so it's you keep our family business in our family. That's why we're taking
mm,
care of our elders. We're doing that
mm,
same thing for the Hispanic population. It's like you have these old school families, with the abuela or whoever, abuelita, whichever one it is that you have, and
mm,
it's like she's the person that you go to when you're feeling
mm,
down or you have stuff. You don't go out and get
mm,
therapy from something. So in addition to it being expensive, it's always kind of that culture of, look, suck it up. We don't
mm,
have time. It's just like the whole gay transgender culture. It's the same thing.
mm,
It's like it's not something that has been so widely accepted. So a lot of people feel like they have to sneak or they have to do certain things, or they can't talk to their family members about it. So it's kind of the same thing
mm,
whenever you're struggling with depression and you know that your mom's going to be like, we don't have time for that. I got to go to work. I have to do this. I need you to get it together because I
mm,
can't deal with it. And so it's like, why am I telling her? And then what happens
mm,
now? You're depressed, or you may have other issues going on. Now you're doing drugs, or you're hanging out with, there's a way. If the outlet is not provided with actual intervention, there will be another outlet that's probably not the healthy choice. So it's more
mm,
important now, and I think it's becoming more accepted, especially like for me. I'm like, we're pushing mental health this year in adolescents. Like, that's my goal. That's my goal. Raise
mm,
awareness, use this
mm,
platform, spread the word. So I think that
mm.
that's kind of, we're trying to get out of that, suck it up, we don't have time to deal with it, to now, okay, so what's going on with you? And if I can't help you, now we're trying to make it more acceptable that there are support groups, there's peer groups, there's mental health
Mm.
resources to help you. If I can't, I need to acknowledge as a parent that, hey, I can't figure this out, but let's find someone who can.
Yeah, that's really profound what you said. It kind of what you said reminds me of, I used to work at a dentist's office. I was pre-dental, of course, in college. I know it's the stereotypical Asian, right? But I remember my dentist, like I would talk about therapy and how I was getting all these life coaching certifications, and she's like, "Life coach?" She's like, "No one has time for that. Like you should just be too busy working, and if you're just busy working, then you don't have time to be depressed, right?" And I was just like, "Huh." but that really does summarize like a lot of the old school Asian
Yeah, but if I'm
mentality.
depressed, then I can't go to work because I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
be productive because I'm depressed. There's a chemical imbalance that's stopping me from being able to do what I need to do. So I'm not going to be able to go full force in other things. I'm not going to be able to
Mm.
because you have to treat it. It's like having a broken bone. Okay, you want me to go
Mm.
do something else? We have to fix the bone first before I can
Mm.
be productive and do other things.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, right? Because with most people when they have a broken bone, they'll probably do something to resolve it, right? But
Right.
with mental health, it's one of those things where we don't take care of it unless it's too late. And unfortunately, you mentioned suicide. For some people, it is too late, and that's why what your book to help adolescents and teens is vital. And it's interesting, right? Because you're clearly using social media as a way to empower um teens and adolescents around mental health, right? But the other side of the equation, which you're well aware of, right? Because you get a lot of guys who are just saying all this crazy stuff about you, right? And I also think that that portion of social media is also what is the root of some of this mental health issue as well, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. The unrealistic comparisons, the standards, the expectations. Like there's a lot of stuff, especially in that young 20-year-old age where and it's it
Mm,
I mean it's not specific to males or females because it's the same thing. Guys feel like I have to be doing this. I need to be making this amount of money. I'm supposed to
mm,
take care of this. I'm supposed to do I need to be a provider, so it's a lot that goes on, guys, as well. My beard isn't growing, like just little things that people can compare
mm,
themselves to, in addition to, of course, women, oh, I'm fat, I'm overweight, or I don't
mm,
have money to buy these fancy clothes, or I'm not special, or my hair is short, my hair is long, whatever.
mm,
So yeah, it's definitely a very, very difficult time for people that are, one, trying to find themselves, and two, for people that do have those conditions like body dysmorphia or depression or anxiety or social phobias, things like that.
mm.
It's a very difficult time for them.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. It does feel like the world is being a little bit more open to different types of influencers who don't look like the what it, back in the like 2000s and 90s, right? Like a lot of these influencers looked a certain way, right? So it does feel like we're finally open to different, but like you said, like there is still a good chunk of influencers that look a certain way, right? And that's still, I think we have a lot of room for progress, but I would say objectively, it does seem like it's getting better. Like there is more representation across the board. Like even on Netflix, when I turn it on, it used to, everyone used to look like Brad Pitt or Jennifer Aniston, and now I'm like, wow, like there's so much more diversity now on
Mhm.
on Netflix.
Yeah, it's like anyone now. They have a you it's like regular people now. This is our time right now. Like if you're regular looking, hey, this is the time to capitalize on it. They're always looking for regular people. And I'll be honest, like whenever I early 20s, I too, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be a model. And I started doing, like, I went and I did a whole portfolio, and I started going out, and even up to like maybe 10 years ago, I tried to go back into it, and I've been told that I was too attractive for certain things. So like I
Hmm.
auditioned for commercials or something, and I've been told that, oh well, you don't look realistic, or they're looking for someone that has more of like a mom look, or like a
Wow.
homemaker look, or whatever. And I'm like, but I am a mom and I'm a homemaker,
Hmm.
and but
Wow.
there are certain things too where they want someone who just looks average,
Huh.
that's a little bit overweight. So there's a challenge
Huh.
with being cute too. I'm telling you, like
Huh.
everybody has something going on.
Wow, that's deep. I didn't realize that. I mean, that makes sense now, right? It does seem in some ways that's good, but to your point, it's that's I would have never thought that that's like an issue. Huh. Um, so when you went to these auditions and things like that, right? I mean, obviously that takes a lot of courage because, I'm sure you're getting rejected as well, right? How did you get grounded in like because you're dealing with a lot of rejection, right? And it sounds like you've done a lot of the inner work, like you really have done a lot of soul searching, right? what do you suggest to folks who are a little bit earlier in that journey, but they know that there's more to life, there's more that they're capable of?
So the one thing that I always feel that I was able to grasp at a young age and hold on to it is being comfortable with me and being comfortable with accepting that something is not meant for you. And I think when you realize that something is not where you're supposed to be, the sooner you realize that, you let it go and you are able to go
Mm,
find things that are, whether that be a
mm,
relationship, whether that be a job, whether that be a role, whatever it is, right? And I think what
mm,
happens is a lot of times when we have that rejection, what happens is that we take it so personal that you
mm,
can't stop comparing yourself. Well, why did that happen? Well, what did I do wrong? Well, what should I do? Whether or why didn't they love me enough? Or why is this,
mm,
why is this a pair of pants? Why aren't they fitting me right? Whatever it is that's
mm,
making you feel that way. We focus so much on the emotion of rejection that it's hard to see what comes after that. Like that's not where you're
mm,
supposed to be. People will always say, that's not my door. That's not my address. That's not where I'm
mm,
supposed to be. And the sooner that you're able to change that mindset into feeling and accepting that, oh my gosh, everything is so easy. So now
huh,
if I'm working on something or I'm doing something or I'm trying to work with someone, I'm networking or whatever, and
yeah,
they're like, no, I'm just like, oh, okay. Cool. All right. Well,
huh,
good. Then that means I'm not going to waste any more time with you.
mm,
Let me go find something that is for me. So
huh,
whatever it is, I think that's the key to it is having that mindset of not focusing in the moment of rejection. Of course, no one wants
mm,
to be rejected, but it's not personal against you. Don't stay in that feeling. Figure out what is meant for you on the other
mm.
side.
That's deep. Yeah, it's it sounds like if I'm so focused, it's like where I choose to put my energy, right? And
Mhm.
just having acceptance, just accepting whether you believe in God, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? Just having faith that like, okay, like this is happening for a reason, and perhaps there's a different calling that I'm better suited for that I just don't know yet, I haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my advice.
That's really good. So your book, it's I'm sure going through the whole process of writing a book can be very like cathartic and can be a lot of emotions come up. Um, what was that writing process for like you? Would you share a little bit more about that whole process? And when did you know like, okay, I have to get this book out. I have to get this story out to the people.
So I have 5 books, and my first book I wrote in 2019, and I got diagnosed with cancer in 2012. I went through a whole process of going through that. What am I going to do with it? What am I doing with it now? Then after you go through something traumatic, you're like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm so sick of talking about
Mm,
this. I don't. I wanted cancer to not define me. I want to go back to being a normal person, right?
mm,
So, but then I had people that would reach out to me like, "Oh my gosh, my mom just got diagnosed with cancer. My wife just got diagnosed with cancer. Can you talk to her? Can you help her?
mm,
This and that." So, I just felt like I was always talking to people about cancer. So, I was like, "You know what?
mm,
I'm just going to write a book about it, and I'm going to write my story about what
mm,
happened, some of the things that I didn't know to expect, some of the ways that I coped, how I dealt with it." So my first
mm,
book, Strong More Than Muscles, is basically my autobiography about life with cancer and life after, right? So I talked about when I got diagnosed, finding the lump, things that happened, other stories that were relatable to that, what I wanted to do with my story. So I was very
mm,
immature uh, mindset then because I was trying to figure out what it was that I needed to do. I needed to tell my story. I just didn't know what I was going to do with it, right? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put a book out here, see what goes on, right? So figured out how to write a book, figured out global distribution. Seeing your book on Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million is like way different than just seeing it on the Amazon storefront, right? So I
mm,
was like, wow, okay. So that helped me get a broader audience because people from all over the world world can buy your book. So
Mm,
then after that, now I have people that are asking me, oh my gosh, like, how did you figure out how to write a book? How did you have time to write a book? How did you do that? So then my second book, which is called Day One, A Guide to Identifying, Organizing, and Executing Any Goal. That's what I wanted to do, was I wanted to share that, because what I had learned from sitting down to write a book to actually now going and speaking at events,
mm,
sitting down, being a panelist, being an expert speaker, going on all of these shows, going on the radio, doing stuff. I was like, wow. But what happened was I had started changing my mindset. I was like, okay, so I need to focus on what are my daily habits. Just
mm,
kind of like what you do too, you pick up from other people's trainings. And I was like, okay, wow. So I need to focus on my mindset. I need to look at my circle. I need to look at daily
mm,
habits. I need to figure out how to have a goal and execute a goal. Because that's the problem. A lot of people, it's easy
mm,
on when you guys have those visionary parties and you're writing your goals for the year and you have your little vision board and you put the
mhm,
pieces up and you have it, like, it's right there, you see it. But no one cares until you get to the end and you actually
mm,
win. Nobody cares that you have a car on here or a house on here or a new job.
mm,
What are you doing to get to that place? That's the part. It's the execution. Everyone has the
mm,
idea. What is your execution? And not only that, but what is your accountability for not
mm,
executing? Because you have to also hold your. So that was my second book. And in my third book last year, I had so many people, because now I'm on my journey, right? My self-love journey. I'm figuring out myself. I'm like, hey, this Holly girl, I like her. She knows some stuff, And so I started realizing that there are so many people in midlife that were single, and I was hearing all of
mm,
these stories and people, trying to be in bad relationships, settling, doing this. So I was like, hey, I want us all to be on our growth journey. Let us all love ourselves. So my third book,
mm,
Somebody's Wife or Not, is basically a self-discovery book for people that are in a single phase, whether it be by choice, whether it's
mm,
by divorce, whether it's being widowed, whatever it is. There's anything can happen where you find yourself single. So how do you love yourself without a partner to define you, right? So that was my big book last year.
mm,
And then this year I'm doing my book series, which is where we are with the mental health, adolescent mental health, and that's affirmation anthems. And so my book is called Your Mind, Your Magic. But I actually have four books. I have one that's affirmation anthems for teens, that's girls and boys. Then I have one for specifically for sick kids, kids with chronic diagnosis, diabetes, cancer, whatever. So I have a thing going on
mm,
with the Children's Hospital for that, and that's for young warriors. Then I have one specifically for boys, because the anthems for teens might be a little girly. I don't know. So I did one specifically for things that boys go through. And then also, I know that there's a huge need for affirmations in kids with special needs, autism,
mm,
things like that. So I also have one
mm.
for extra special kids. So actually, my Your Mind, Your Magic is four books, and I just added one. I know it sounds crazy, but I just added one for your pet. So it's actually
Aw,
it's called Positive Tales, but it's part of my series. But if you have a
aw,
pet, now you too can speak affirmations and stuff into the pet. So it's super cute. It's in
aw.
bluey colors. So you can sit down, because some people are like, I don't have kids. I only have a dog. I'm like, no worries, because I got a book for your dog too.
Hmm. Wow. It's interesting, right? Because so a lot of these was just out of because people were just messaging you and asking you these questions all the time. So you were smart and okay, instead of me spending a million hours solving all of these problems, why don't I just create something that I can scale because people are going to ask me anyways, right?
Yeah.
And they're each solving like different parts in your life that you wish you had that resource when you were
Mhm.
right in those beginning stages. Yeah.
Yeah, and I even had another book that I released earlier this year in January, and I'm actually in the process of making an e-course and all of that for it. It's called Ink and Imagination, and it's about
Mhm.
how to write your own book, because one of the main questions I always get asked
Mm,
about is, how do I write a book? Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about writing a book too. I'm thinking about writing a book. What can I do to write a book? No worries,
mm,
because your girl
mm,
got you. Ink and Imagination. So now I have a book about that. And again, like I said, I'm
mhm,
doing an e-course for that. So you can actually go through, hear my voice telling you about things to do, how to publish a
mm.
book, how to pick it up, how to put it on Kindle versus how to do
Yeah.
global distribution, all of that kind of stuff too. So yeah,
Hmm.
wherever I am, I got a book to help you. I promise.
That's inspiring, right? Because I think a lot of us, like, we have ideas, like you said, we have ideas. We're like, oh, I would love to write a book one day, and some people just don't know where to start, right? So it sounds like one of your powers, I mean, you have a lot of things you're really good at, but it sounds like you're able to just take action. And I love what you said about accountability, being able to be around visionary folks who are also out there making things happen. So it sounds like networking is a big part of how you continue to be inspired by other movers and shakers, or people that are on the go, taking action, people who are making things happen, right?
For sure, for sure. And I'll tell you, like, it must have been 2021 because it was after COVID, but I don't remember us wearing masks. So probably 2021, right? Everything is kind of blurry in that phase. But I remember being in the room with someone, and I remember the guy saying, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, I was like, you know what? I need to figure out who knows me. And
Hmm.
so that's when I really, really, really started pushing it, because I went from like probably, I don't know, like 5,000 followers. And then first book, I was up to maybe like 13,000. And
Mm.
then I was like, you know what? I really need to put myself in spaces. So I was like, I'm going to be obnoxious with Holly Cotton until people know my name, like whatever I
Mm.
have to do. And it's crazy because once you shift to that, I could be outside trying to get in somewhere and someone's on the inside and they're like, oh, there's Holly. Hey, come on,
Huh.
or I walk, the mayor is right there, and I'm standing there and he's like, hey, you guys know Holly? Hey, Holly Cotton, whatever, and whoever it is, so putting myself in spaces where now people know me has completely changed that, because it doesn't matter that
Mm.
I know you, it matters that
Mm.
you know who I am and you know my value and the worth that I bring into doing
Mm.
something. And that's a key part of being an influencer as well, and having what differentiates you from other people.
Mm.
Because if you're doing the same thing, okay, so you're another person on TikTok
Mm.
opening packages, you're another person on a TikTok with a bodysuit, or you're selling some jewelry, or you're like, I'm
Mm.
not going to know you in the public. But whenever you have a brand and you have some products that are unique to yourself, like, I am the product, I am this, so that helps too. It's who knows you.
That's really good advice. And I feel like some people, it's almost like they think networking is like a dirty word, right? So so folks that feel icky around networking, like how should they rewire their brains so that it's not something that's like bad or transactional, but no, this is just me sharing my gifts with the world.
Yes, and that's the key to it. It's that mindset for everything. And again, I think what happens is a lot of people, they go and they feel like they don't want to seem like a groupie if they're in the or trying to
Mm.
ask someone like, hey, whatever. Not me. I don't care who you are. I go up to people and I do first name, last name.
Mhm.
Holly Cotton, nice to meet you. I'm not Holly, I'm Holly Cotton, because I want, when you remember me, I want you to know who I was. I don't want to be caught up in 15 other Hollies. Holly Cotton,
Mm.
Holly Cotton, Holly Cotton, nice to meet you. So it's like, what is your brand? What are you doing? And I think that you have to use that because other people are looking to expand as well. So you have to figure out what it is that you're selling
Mm.
with your brand. What is your product? Because for me, if
Mm.
I'm talking to you, I know that I'm an asset to whatever you're doing.
Mm.
Whether we work together, now you get on another platform, you're with my audience, whether I'm on your platform and now my
Mm.
someone who doesn't know that I'm an author, they don't know who I am, they don't know what I'm doing. Now I'm on a different part, a different platform as well. So I think that that's the key, where everyone know what you're selling, know who you are, what your product is, and then that way, whenever you're talking to someone, they have no choice but to know that it's an asset to be part of what you're doing. So I think that that's a key too. Like, just going, hey, Holly Cotton. So yeah, so I have a podcast. So hey, I have
Mm.
you have a book about that. Hey, you know what?
Mhm.
About that. We should network. We should be, like, let me know how we can network. And that right there, that's how you get that residual
Mm.
money. That's how you start getting all that passive income from
Mm.
courses and books and all of those types of things.
And So it sounds like you put a lot of thought into it, obviously, right? And you really were able to like define. I'm sure this didn't happen overnight, but how does maybe someone has all these ideas and so many things that they do, how are they able to concisely package that in a way that like lands and that you said that is different, that's like a unique differentiator versus just like saying whatever, regurgitating what everyone else is doing?
So again, I think that you have to find what your purpose is, right? So my purpose is I want to be the change. I feel like so many people talk about it. They want to do things, they want to
Hmm.
sell this, they want to do stuff, but my purpose is to be the change. Everything that I'm doing, whether it be sharing a reel, whether it be whatever it is, if I post a picture in a bikini, I want to show you that you can be a mom. You can still go to the beach and have fun. You can still,
Hmm.
like, age is not a number. I want to
Hmm.
show that here I am. I might be on the beach on Tuesday, and on Friday I look like Michelle Obama. I'm on the
Hmm.
stage somewhere else. But
Hmm.
everything has to be intentional. Everything has to align with your purpose. So that's the problem. People are always
Hmm.
like, "Oh, well, I want to write a book." Write a book about what? Oh, I want to. Do you just want to be a author, a faceless author, and
Hmm.
sell books? Then that's fine. Like, go do a book series, knock yourself out. But if now you want people to come, you want to have engagement. What is your book selling? What are you doing? What is your products that you're like? You have to identify what that is. And for me, it's always about I want to have a purpose. I want to be the person that inspires people. I want to show women that you can do it all. You can be a mom. You can be, you can go work out. You can still do this. You can wear a sexy dress, but you can also
Hmm.
do this, be classy. So I just want to
Hmm.
always have that. So everything that I do aligns with that. And that's the problem. People start doing, oh, well, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. But it's in every different possible genre, and so nothing
Hmm.
aligns. But whenever you're walking in your purpose, everything that I
Hmm.
do, whether it be, like you said, life coaching, that's part of me being a nurse. That's part of mental health. That's part of
Hmm.
me being inspiration. That's part of me, like everything, no matter what it is, fitness. If I post a workout video, guess what? I'm selling fitness. I'm selling a healthy lifestyle. Everything I
Hmm.
do is a healthy lifestyle. So it's just all just runs linear to everything that I'm trying to do. So I
Hmm.
think that's the key to it too. Quit trying to be all over the place. Find what works for you, find what you can
Hmm.
sell, what defines you, and make sure everything that you touch goes in that direction.
That's good. It sounds like it's in the beginning, obviously we're trying different things, but then you'll know,
Mhm.
right? Because you'll be like, okay, this feels right, or this is actually, or just slowing down and just being like, hey, like what is my legacy? Like what do I want to be about, right? So I think so many of us were just chasing shiny objects, and I'm
Mhm.
not gonna lie, I've been guilty of that as well. Or I'm heavily influenced by what other people tell me I should do, right? But it's
Hey, and
not.
money is great. I'm not complaining about money. I love money just as much. But I promise you, why do you think there's so many people that have money that are miserable? Like, how many people have money and at the top, the peak of their career, and then they die of suicide, or they do something else that jeopardizes everything that they have. Money doesn't solve everything. I love it too. It gives me a great life. I love. I'm not. Yeah, I want my check. I showed up. I need my check when I leave, like all of that. But at the same
Mm,
time, it's also about what am I leaving there? So what is the reflection? What is the legacy? What are those types of things? And so I think that that's the key to it as well, because you need to have that gratification from other things that are just monetary.
yeah. Yeah, I think too many of us we're doing things for the extrinsic like validation, but we don't take a step back and actually like really reflect like, is this what I actually want to be doing, or am I too far off and I feel like golden handcuffs, like I can't quit anymore, right? Like I feel like it's I'm too invested in it, right? Um So it
And you
sounds
also have to think about as well, if it's something that you're passionate about, you cannot expect that you come on and it's something, say you wrote a book, right? Or say today I went in here and I got someone from Fiverr to make me a course about something, right? Or whatever it is, that's your product. You got a board game, okay? So you got this product and you're trying to sell it and you post about it one time. And then the first thing, no, nobody supports me, nobody believes in me, like, and you know, I mean, I did the same thing when I went through. I was like, God, like, I was trying to do, I was like, I started selling t-shirts, you know, and I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, no one's buying my t-shirts.
Huh.
That's not my audience. There's someone
Mm.
that needs the product, that if it's a good
Hmm.
product and you believe in it and it's purposeful, then don't
Mhm.
let people that you know not supporting you stop you from doing it.
Hmm.
Go, keep going, pushing it, believe in yourself. And I say all the time, because I also do consulting, so I'll have people that are like, hey, I'm doing this and how do I grow this and how do I do that, and I'm going through and I'm like, well, okay, you literally posted about it once a month ago, you know. You
Yeah.
have to be obnoxious. You have to be so obnoxious that people have no choice but to believe in you. And that's what I'm saying, like, hashtag your name, go by your URL with your name, like,
Hmm.
do something, whatever it
Yeah.
is, that's your product. Just be obnoxious. People have no choice, that when they Google that term or that phrase or that
Hmm.
idea, your name comes up. But if you're not obnoxious, you're irrelevant. You aren't
Hmm.
in the forefront. So quit being deterred
Hmm.
from doing something you believe in.
Yeah, I love that quote. And that's very memorable too, right? And so do you feel like if people, because Alex Hermosi also has the same mentality where he's like, hey, just get out there as much as possible, and eventually one day you'll wake up and be like, oh wow, okay, like, okay, I definitely have reached a critical mass, right? So I think too many people quit like too early on. Um,
Hmm.
and to your point, sometimes people do post just once, right? I mean, I've been guilty of it where there's something I'm really passionate about, but I don't want to seem too obnoxious. So I'm like, all right, let me just post it like 5 times and I'm good. But it's like people will forget a week later, right? It's like that's just facts, like that's just
I
reality.
mean, I'll give you a prime example. Like, I posted a video when I did my first, okay, so when I wrote my affirmation book, I only had an idea for one book, right? So I did affirmation anthems for teens, Your Mind, Your Magic, and I did a reel about it. And I was like, this year we're going to talk about adolescence mental health. And I think the reel had, like, I don't know, 13, 14, I don't know, whatever, 15,000 views, right? On that one reel. So I'm like, okay, you know, that's getting out there. People are listening. So then I did, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do all of these other books, right? The affirmations for these other different groups. So I did that. I made a reel for that. It's like 10,000, 13, 14, I don't know, whatever thousand views, right? Sell ebooks, got stuff going on, all of this, right? So then I didn't post about it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I did, like, then I have like some PR stuff about it. So I posted one of my articles that I had in New York Times about it. And it's like Holly Cotton doing you know, whatever, igniting a movement for mental health with her new book series.
Hmm.
So everyone's in my DM, oh my God, you wrote a book? Like, oh wow. And I'm thinking, okay, so how do I have 25,000
Hmm.
views on a
Hmm.
reel with closed captions, with me posting the book with it in the
Yeah.
caption? And now you guys act like you didn't know that I wrote a book about mental health for teens. It's just, it's like, it's mind boggling. But
Hmm.
that's the way, so that's what you got to do, because some people don't look at videos, some people don't read captions. So you need to have a still, you need to have a video, you need to boost your video, you need to make
Hmm.
captions, you need to have some pictures in there, you know, like, hit it on every angle. So the people that like comedy, make something cute or
Hmm.
funny in it, make something, you know, whatever. Like, I'm waiting on my, like, all my ebooks for my pet affirmation are live, but I'm still waiting on the actual proof copy to come in, because I just wrote it last week. And I'm going to
Hmm.
do a whole cute video with me and my dog where we're sitting
Oh.
down. She's going to be cute. We're going to be sitting in the park. I'm going to read her book, because now I need
Oh.
people. I can't sell a pet book and people are like, well, I'm not buying a pet book. But if you see me with a
Hmm.
cute dog and you're like,
Hmm.
oh my God, baby, we love book. Now you have a
Hmm.
visual of it. So you just have to hit all of those different avenues when you're trying to sell a product.
That's a good point. You're really good at diversifying different because people learn in different ways, right? Like, so some people are
Mhm.
very visual, or it's similar to some people are LinkedIn people, some people are Instagram, some people are Facebook, right? And some people are TikTok. So it's like similarly, you don't know until you try all of it, right? And you're also opening to or growing your audience base as well, right? Because to your point, some people like they might just be blog people, or some people are just book people,
Mhm.
some people are podcast people. So you just don't know, and if you try everything, you'll find out. You'll be like, "Oh, wow, it seems people seem to be really resonating with me on the podcast format," right? But you just have to try, and I think some people
And not
they're
only
not.
that, but maybe you're not the person that needs to sell your product. You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing
Mm,
too, because a lot of people are afraid that I lose notoriety if I'm not the person that's selling my product. Like
huh.
if I have a t-shirt and I'm wearing my t-shirt all the time, that's great. But what if you don't like me?
Mm,
I need my t-shirt to be on someone else. Or if I'm selling a cup, I need my cup to be on someone else's desk as well. So
hmm,
whatever it is that's your product, maybe you don't always have to be the face front of that. So again, when I do my pet book, guess what? I'm just an active back participant. It's going to be my dog that's the main character, you know,
hmm,
or whatever it is. So whatever your product is as well, maybe you need to get a different demographic. You know, there's so many
hmm,
people that are multiracial, multicultural. So you know, hit those people, have a dinner where everyone is talking, or record your friend saying something. Like if you feel like it's you're not selling it, some people just don't have a trustworthy face. Like some people, if you're trying to be the brand, I'm looking at you like, I don't think I don't think they can relate to even this. How did they do this? And they can't even relate to it. You know, think about all the board games, think about all the games in general. It's always kids on it, or it's always whoever the
hmm,
audience is. It's not the
hmm.
person that's it, you know, Hasbro is not up there putting their face on it. You know, it's
Sure.
who else is going to sell it. So that's another way, you know, with
Hmm.
networking and stuff. You know, who else can you use to sell your product?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because like for a podcast, for instance, when someone else is promoting that person, it's a lot easier. And sometimes the other person's delivery, whether it's their tone of voice, whether it's just the way they communicate things, it just might land differently versus if we're doing
Mhm.
it, right? So
Yeah, they may
that's
not like
smart.
your tone, or they don't like the way or you said something on one podcast 5 years ago and now you got enemies from that. Now, no, like what? So yeah, I know it's a hard road. People talk about me all the time. I can tell you when I first started my podcast, so 2 years ago I started my podcast. And when I remember when they reached out to me and asked me, because my podcast started with Ebony Magazine. And so they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we're starting a digital platform. We want to do podcasts. Would you want to do a health and wellness podcast? So I was like, okay, sure. And I remember when I first read the like the reviews and stuff, and people were like, you know, they were talking about how country my accent was and how
Huh.
southern I am, and you know, this and that, and how I have the drawl and this. And at first, my initial response, I was just like, oh, well, I mean, I am in the South. You know, I'm sorry. I do live here. Like, I'm sorry. And so then I was like, well, you know what? So I shifted my mindset and I was like, well, then this is not the podcast for you, because you can have
Hmm,
people in New York that do podcasts and they love the New Yorker accent and they knew this, and you know, they love the Long Island, like they just, you know, Staten Island, they have like they love that accent and it gives
hmm,
them something because they feel. I was like, so why can't we in the South have an accent and that be accepted as
hmm,
well? So I was like, you know what? Now I'm going to use my platform and be like, I'm also representing the women from the South, the people,
hmm,
the Southerners. Like, yes, we are educated. I have a master's
hmm,
degree. I do all these other things, and I have a draw. So, you
hmm.
know, find whatever it is, or again, if it ain't, then it's not for you. Then don't listen to my show.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear how unapologetically yourself you are. Like I do think it takes time to get to that stage, right? Like
Oh,
obviously
for
the
sure. It's a growth journey. It's a growth journey. Yes.
so for folks to that are a little bit earlier on and they're still kind of uncomfortable with um like you said, like maybe they just are insecure about something, right? It sounds like it wasn't like a overnight thing for you, right? But what practices and I mean, like you said, finding like your purpose sounds like that helped a lot because then you're not less on ego and more just based on like your mission statement. But what other um practices would you recommend for folks who that are trying to find their way and they're still not a little bit more comfortable with some of their things that are
So
different?
I think that some of the things that you have to do, and it's cliche because you hear it all the time, but I think one of the things that you always hear people say is to find your purpose, is to find what comes easy to you that's difficult for other people. So people
Yeah.
say that all the time, and honestly, that's the truth. Like, what is it that you can do over and over
Mm,
again? What is it that you can sell? What is it
mm,
that you can provide? What is the service that's of value? What is it? So when you're trying to figure it out, instead of figuring out what people what sells, like, yeah, that's great. Like, it's important to know about sales and data and things like that. But what is it that you can offer over and over again that's a product that's yourself or an actual product? So I think that's the key thing too, is finding that, especially whenever you're trying to use yourself as a brand. It's different when I have, if I'm trying to sell this, ponytail holder, this is a purpose. It's only going to be for that. But when you're branding yourself, it's very hard. So you just have to
mm,
figure out what it is and make sure that
mm,
everything that you're doing is aligning with what you're selling. Because people look for that. They look to see if you're falling off. They look to see,
mm,
are you promoting your product? Because if you stop promoting your product, if you stop pushing it, if it's not in the forefront, then they'll stop believing in it. But if you're
mm,
just like every day you're posting about it, it makes it look like it's authentic. It makes it look like, it's a successful product. So people want to be part of something that's
mm,
successful. So what is that? Because I don't want to support you. You don't even believe in you, or you sound
mm,
unsure about yourself. And then the last thing I would say is that you can't be afraid to fail. And I think that that's the key thing. I can't tell you how many times I failed at something. And I say failed loosely because, we're not supposed to say fail. We're supposed to say it was a lesson learned,
mm,
but there are so many things where I was like, man, this is a great idea. I think I'm gonna run with this. And then I
mm.
do it, or I might put it in Canva, or I start doing something with it. And I'm like, maybe not. This wasn't good. But I don't look at it as a failure. I don't look at it as, oh my gosh, this is not what I need to do. I'm looking at it like, okay, I think I still have this idea, but that wasn't the way to do it. So how do I figure out how to do it a different way? So start looking at that, instead of saying looking at it as a failure, as a catch-all. This is it. It's over. I can't do anything else. It's not. It's not the end of the world if you fail at something. So I think that
Mm,
that's the key too, is people just have to realize you're going to fail. That's part of the learning process. You have to know what works, what doesn't work, and then you just
mm.
keep trying to edit it or figure out what ways you can make it work. But don't look at failure as something personal.
Yeah, that's man, so many lessons. Well, thank you, Holly Cotton, for just shedding so much wisdom and insights and so many takeaways, right? Whether it's how to be one step closer towards finding your purpose, finding out like what is something that we do that is difficult for others. That's really tangible advice, from diversifying platforms and trying different things and just seeing how the audience responds based on and not being afraid to fail, right? Like what a valuable lesson. And I like what you said about we're all selling something, right? Whether we know it or not, right? So it's being intentional. Like, am I selling a healthy lifestyle? Am I selling that, that I'm complacent, right? Like we're all selling something. So just to be a little bit more intentional, more purposeful with that, and define that through whether that's your books, listening to your podcasts. This has been such a treat to be able to share your journey with the world, and I'm just excited to see what you continue to create and all the lives you're impacting, whether it's like pets and pets owners and adolescents and men, women all over. So I'm excited for your journey. And I'll link all of your books, your Instagram, all your social as well. But what's the best way for people to continue to support you and your journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, follow me on Instagram. I have all of my stuff on there at Holly Cotton, HOLLYCOTTON_. And that anything that I'm doing or working on or events that's there, my link tree is in my bio. You can go and look at any articles that I've been in or if projects I'm working on. You can find hollycotton.com from there. So everything for me is Holly Cotton. So Google me, my website comes up, like whatever it is, I'm super easy. I keep it linear. Holly Cotton.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.